Hi there. I just thought I'd like to point out that if you're thinking of getting into real estate, think carefully. There are many different aspects to real estate, obviously, but in the typical sense of buying rental properties and investment properties, that sort of thing, which is what I do, I just want to point out that it is not for the faint-hearted in any way. I don't care if you have a property manager and you think, oh, I'm not going to be dealing with it. Oh, yes, you will. I was hearing from a friend who had a tenant who had passed in his property. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's unfortunate. But I hadn't thought about the other aspect that he raised, that now he has to hire a biohazard company to come and take care of it because it had been a few days. And he's quoted $45,000 to clean up the remains after the coroner has come and such. So I'm like, holy, we don't really think about that sort of thing too often. I know people die. I know people die in their homes, but hadn't thought about what does that mean for the landlord or the homeowner. So he's inquiring about, is this reasonable? Will my insurance cover it? Things like that. And it's just when people think about, investors, you've got properties. Oh, you must be rich. You're making so much money off the back of people. I think they have absolutely no clue. Ow, those backs are messy. People are messy. Real estate is not easy. So I thought, I'll have to try to just get that aside, but also think on it because I'll probably come across it too at some point. And I turned to my Facebook for a second. And the first real estate group, the first post I see is just a few lines. Hey, I need help. I don't know what to do. I bought a house I sold a house subject to, which means that they took over my mortgage, which is fine. It's a perfectly legal and good way to make it a win-win for everyone. But the people that she sold her property to and that are now holding her mortgage, she's in second lien position. The guy ran over his wife and now he's in jail and she's fighting for her life in ICU. And she's like, uh-oh, wait, what does that mean for the house? And what does that mean for me? And I'm like, holy crumb. Real estate is a very messy business because you're dealing with people. You're going to have things happen. Some people will be crazy. Some people will be fantastic and take really good care of your property and the kind that you are grateful for. But we deal with the most unpredictable, crazy things you may think of. And then there are the properties themselves. So all sorts of things can go wrong. I did not know until just a few days ago that I live in Chicagoland, and that in one part of Chicagoland, as the city was moving out further, they have a lot of trains here. There was an expression that everything goes through Chicago at one point. And in many ways, I think that's true. It's the third largest city. I've never seen so many train tracks all together in my life. Neither have I seen so many semis on the road as I have. And the thing is, it's not like they have separate freeways. They're on the same freeway as you. So I hadn't seen that. And I haven't lived in a place that has so many planes in the air because they have O'Hara, which is huge. And then they've got Midway. And then there are even some other little ones. Chicagoland is a land of two, T-O-O-O-O, too much for me. But anyhow, I digress. Back to real estate. There was a time when this area was developing, and as people moved away from the city because it was too expensive to buy in the city, and they were buying out in the boonies, as we would call it in the old days, they wanted to be close. And the cheapest, most available land was right next to the railroad tracks. And I think there are places where they build right next to the railroad tracks. I remember when I was newly married, my husband and I looked at a very nice property that was right next to the railroad tracks. We were renting, but I refused, and he did too, because we had 2 cats and we didn't want to see them killed, even though they were house cats, indoor cats. So back to the real estate of Chicagoland, some houses started to go up right next to the railroad tracks. And apparently in Chicagoland, they have basements. Most homes have basements, some kind of basement or crawl space, but basements mostly. These houses didn't have basements. So you would think, so they're on concrete foundation, does that make sense? No, they're not. Apparently they were built on the ties that were left over from the railroad tracks. So these kerosene-coated railroad tracks were laid down on a plot of land, and the home was built on top of it. So now those homes still exist to a great degree, but you can tell that you shouldn't buy them because the vibration of the train tracks are such that over the years, the houses have moved. So they're no longer totally straight. You can see that one is a little lower than the other, or the other way around, whatever, from the middle. I'm like, oh, dang. Good thing I've joined a mentorship that's telling me all about this stuff, because I never would have thought that. I wouldn't buy a house right next to the tracks because of the noise, but the vibration. Well, they also have quarries in the middle of these towns. They have rock quarries where they dig up rock for all the cement that they need around here, because Chicago's big. And those places blast. They blast. I say they bomb because it makes me so upset. They blast, and for blocks and blocks, you can feel the ground shake, and you can hear the noise, and I don't like it. I don't like being around that. This home is too far away. I can't hear it, but my daughter's home is close enough that you can hear it. And then, I used to jump every time. Didn't matter when it went off. They knew when it went off. So they were kind of like, oh yeah, okay, the blasting, the bombing. So those houses too must have to suffer over a long period of time. And those are just unusual problems. Houses have all sorts of things that go wrong with them, which is why you always want to buy a brick home or a stone home, if at all possible. I grew up in Vancouver, and in British Columbia, we have incredible Douglas firs, lots and lots of lumber. So all the houses are mainly made out of wood. And I can tell you, it also rains a lot in Vancouver. Rain and wood over time rot and mold. Anyways, I was affected by those 2 posts, those 2 conversations and exposures I had this morning about people dying and the cost of that dying, and then people doing stupid things like running over their wives. And I don't know. Real estate is fascinating, but not for the faint-hearted. In my own home, I had cleaning services, and this is in a home in another state. And I had cleaning services come in to clean the home, make sure it's clean. It's part of the rent that the tenants pay. And one of them decided that they had I don't know what the heck, inappropriately bothered the lady. And the police had to be called. Oh my God, what else am I going to see? I don't know. It's interesting, but not for the faint-hearted. There are challenges, and they're not just inconveniences. They're traumatizing. They're expensive. They're unexpected. Oh my God. And they're interesting. But if you're thinking of dipping your toes into real estate because you think that's an easy way to make money, I caution you heavily to think very carefully. And I don't care if you think that you have a lot of people between you and your properties, you're still going to be worrying. I wasn't an owner during COVID. I was a tenant. So of course I lost my job like everybody else. And I really did not want to accept government funding, but I did accept a little bit. And I worked with my landlord to make sure they knew I wasn't looking or interested in stiffing anything or getting away with not paying, because I had a safe place. And I was scared during COVID because a lot of people even very young people were dying. But the more people you put in closer environments, the more they died. And the older they are, the more they died. And I had a nice place, and I was extremely grateful. So I was not interested in any way of stiffing anyone, but a lot of people took that attitude that, heck, you own the place. You got so much money, I don't care. That I got to survive. I'm using my money for what's going to come afterwards because I need to get a job or this or that. They justified it. And there are a lot of owners who lost a lot of money during that time. And evictions were impossible. So you don't know what's going to come up. We don't know what's ahead of us. It's not just the fire and the floods and the hurricanes and things like that. It's so much more. So if you're going to be in the business of providing dwelling for humans, I don't know about you, but for me, I refuse to be a slumlord. I want to have nice, decent housing, and I expect good tenants. But bottom line is that you don't know what you're going to come up against. You don't know who will be living in your homes, what will be happening. And it's an asset that costs you so much money because banks, now we can get behind who are the bad guys. Banks, man, they're so faceless and they're so heartless. They don't care. So the government needs to step in with banks whenever they go nuts. And they do go nuts on an everyday basis. They don't care at all because it's not theirs. They're just employees, and I don't have to explain banks. But I do think that real estate is very rewarding for me. I love it. I will continue to be in it. And I think it has a lot of opportunity, but I think it's made to sound magical, especially in this market where the price of homes are going down. And you can, as an investor, you can come across opportunities that are better than you would 3-4 years ago when they were going up, and they were better for the owners. So now investors are doing a little bit better, but things go in cycles, and the responsibility of having dwellings where people and pets reside, I consider it very heavy. I love it, but I'm also demanding of the people who accept that person who acted inappropriately to our cleaner. He was out real fast. Anyhow, I just want to say that this is a huge iceberg of challenges. And what is being presented to most people through mentorships and society is just what's on top of the water. Oh, look at this. It's so good. And it can go wherever it wants and blah. But the real part of real estate is under the water, and it's extremely dangerous and difficult. And if you think, well, you know what, I'm going to only be lending, it's okay. I'm not going to be involved in that stuff. Let me tell you about lending. Right. Lending is not easy. It's extremely difficult. Yes, it's secured by assets, and that can help a little bit, but what good does it do if the house is underwater and the people have ghosted you and you got to pay $1 gazillion to go to court to get it? It's not carefree. You get more than you do if you put your money in the bank on interest and stuff, yes. And you know what? You can also help people. I've helped people by lending, and that's rewarding. It's good. I like that. And you can lend in much safer ways than if you don't. There are steps you can take, absolutely. And I'm a lender, so I know. But didn't lend. I made some lends. Oh my God. Sorry, I just remembered. Hold on. I've lost two. It's not easy. But lending is not as passive as you might think. And it isn't as easy as you might think. And I highly recommend Abraham Gray. Shout out to Abraham. I love you, dear. He is wonderful. He tells it as it is. He doesn't sugarcoat it. And he's my Abraham. I consider you my personal mentor. He is my personal mentor. Absolutely. But still, lending is not carefree, and neither is borrowing. At least I have borrowed. Of course, we've all borrowed. And I take it very seriously. So it's a heavy weight for me. And I would like it to be a heavy weight for a lot of borrowers, most borrowers, but it's not. I talk to enough borrowers who justify that, hey, it's just business. It happens, that I caution you as to who to lend to. Anyhow, real estate is great. I do like it very much, but it is not the picture that most people think it is. Be very careful and be very cautious. You might be better off to just get 2% or 3% or 4%, whatever you can get, by keeping your money, especially if you can live off it, than entering into real estate. So that's real estate in a very little, small piece. And I'm being optimistic. I'm an optimistic person, very optimistic. And be very careful. Take care. Enjoy yourselves.